You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. Well, I want to open with this because this is kind of scary. And a big concern that I have is that people are either passing out or they're going through major medical events and nobody's helping them. And I witnessed that this weekend. So I'm in Omaha with my sons to hang out with the cousins. And I got really, well, my nephews, their cousins, really cool kids. And so, we all went to dinner and we were in the downtown Omaha area. And I come out because I went to pee. So I come out and I meet up with everybody on the sidewalk. And I hear somebody say, look at this guy trying to park around a homeless person. He's trying to park around a homeless person that is halfway on the street. Now, when I heard that, I was like, is the person homeless or is the person unresponsive? Is this a medical event? So I go to the area where this apparently is happening. And you see a woman outside, because the parking in downtown Omaha is far and few between, although it's free, I guess, on Saturdays. So you can barely find a parking place. And we had to walk a certain distance to get to our parking. But I go over to the area where you see a woman try to, kind of like in the airport, try to guide her partners in his truck, to the parking space. And you see a car with the door, the front, not the passenger, the driver's door open partially. And as I work myself around, trying to get around this truck that's trying to park into this parking space, you see two legs outside of the car. I go and I see a person lying there unresponsive with clenched fists. Homeless person. This was not homeless. This was a person who was getting out of his car, had a medical event, and lost consciousness and is now unresponsive. So I was a little nervous because there's no room to work. There's a truck there's a truck trying to park, and this lady, like, can you believe this? And I go, this might be a medical emergency. Did anybody call 911? And so I go and I check. His pulse was thready. He was still warm. Fists were clenched. So when I see somebody who is unresponsive with clenched fists, I'm thinking that they just had a seizure. They were in a post-ictal state, or and then lost air supply, became hypoxic, passed out, or maybe it was a neurological injury where you have this decorticate posturing that we sometimes see, when people get injured on the football field or in sports. And so he's sitting there in a clenched fist. So I try to, wake him up. I go, hello, sir. I try to check his pulse. Meanwhile, I'm a little nervous because he could grab, if this person was technically homeless or somebody who let's say was trying to trap somebody, you do put your life at risk when you're a medical professional going up in a dark area to somebody who's unresponsive. But I'm like, this guy needs help. Now, thank God, my son said the ambulance is here. So somebody must call the ambulance. But there was nobody around. There was nobody that was going to start CPR on this person. This was not, and even if it was a homeless person, homeless people need CPR. Homeless people can be dying and nobody goes up to them. But this was a person who was clearly getting out of his car and then had some sort of a medical event and nobody was there performing basic life support. Nobody was doing anything. And then I look at this lady and she's like, you know what? Maybe we should move our truck. Yes. Can you get this truck out of the way? I know you were trying to park. I get it. Free parking. Move the truck, because we, and so four the firefighters got there, and oh God, were they handsome. Whew. I mean, I'm trying to concentrate on the patient, but the firefighters come, and I was like, hi. Now, so I give them whatever report I could, but I had a very poor initial survey of the patient. Luckily, they took over, whatever, and then we got out of the way, and that's really what you're supposed to do. If you're a physician, unless first responders want you there, you get the hell out of the way. And so I moved, and I didn't, although I wouldn't have minded them forcibly removing me, because they were pretty hot, but they all had their shirts on. But anyway, so they went up to him. I don't know whatever happened to that patient, but it was a patient. It wasn't somebody who just did drugs and passed out. And still, even if somebody did do drugs and passed out, somebody gets drunk, they could die. I really worry about these college students that get drunk and passed out because they could aspirate on their vomit. So to me, everybody is a medical emergency before proven otherwise. But what's happening, and I heard this with a friend of mine had taken a fall, fell down a hill, was unconscious on the sidewalk. Nobody stopped to help him. They just kept walking. And I'm frightened by that. Everybody is so afraid now to touch somebody or to go up to somebody. Now, what should you do? Okay, I would not advise you to go up to somebody when you are in an enclosed space, when they're in their car, because you could get thrown into their car. I would never. My recommendation to you is to call 911. And it looks like the restaurant or somebody did. So at least somebody did call 911. So that was good. But then what I would do is if you see anybody that could be interfering with the scene, all right, let them know this is a medical emergency. And if there is somebody who is a first responder, they could come in and help. You don't put yourself in harm's way, but at least call 911 and maybe stay on scene, to make sure somebody like an idiot doesn't try to park, and barely run over this guy's feet. You wouldn't think this was happening. And meanwhile, my nephews and my sons, were at a distance and they were getting ready to talk to the paramedics or whatever. And they said, my mom's a doctor. She's over there. And they probably also want to warn, when she sees you, she's going to hit on you guys. Just be prepared. But I don't know. So my concern is that I keep hearing over and over again that nobody came to help. And so I worry, God forbid, I have a heart attack and I'm lying there. Is anybody going to come over to me, or are they going to think I'm there on purpose? Nobody who is passed out on a sidewalk is there on purpose, regardless of their domicile situation. So anytime you see somebody unresponsive, call the paramedics, because you could be saving a life. And we're right now in this very selfish phase. And mind you, I was a little scared. Very rarely do I get scared by a patient, but I was like, this still could be a trap. But I needed to make sure, and I needed to be able to start medical intervention if I had to. And I hope this guy lived. But boy, are people stupid. 1-877 Dolly, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So President Trump is now moving forward with blockage of the Strait of Hormuz after diplomatic talks failed, and Iran played their games like they always did. You can't take any deal seriously, unfortunately, from this regime. And so the U.S. has begun blocking ships from entering or exiting Iranian ports near the Strait of Hormuz. And how they're going to do it is they're going to, they're trying to provide safe passage for cargo ships, oil tankers. They have to take it over first and ensure that some of these mines and booby traps don't hurt innocent ships that are coming through. And so President Donald Trump said that the majority of Iran's navy is at the bottom of the ocean or bottom of the sea. However, there's still these fast attack ships, like what we saw racing to America with fentanyl earlier last year. So President Donald Trump said if any of these ships come anywhere close to our blockade, they will be immediately eliminated using the same system of kill that we use against the drug dealers on boats at sea. He said it is quick and brutal. So the blockade started because he said Iran did not want to give up their nuclear ambitions and accused Tehran of world extortion by continuing to limit traffic through the strait. The U.S. blockade applies to any and all ships trying to enter or leave the Strait of Hormuz. He said that they will not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports. The blockade will be enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal areas, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. Unlike what the media is saying, Trump has not called it the Strait of Trump or the Gulf of Trump. He has not done that, okay? People ask, what does Hormuz mean? I don't think there's a direct translation of what Hormuz means. From what I understand, the Hormuz, it was named after, I think it was it was a kingdom at the time, during the 11th and 17th century, the kingdom of Hormuz. And there's also a city of Hormuz. So the Strait of Hormuz is like, it's like, how can I say this? It's more of a geography sort of name. There was a Persian god, Ahura Mazda, or Hormuz, and so they think that could be also why it was named Hormuz. But there is not like a direct translation that I know of. And the question keeps coming up, going, is this Iran's to block? Is this Iran's? Well, apparently the area has been, shall we say, dominated by many different powers. The Persian Empire, I believe, had it for a long period of time. Then the Portuguese controlled it, I think, up until the 1600s. And then there was the British. I believe the British took it over during the 19th and 20th centuries. They withdrew, I believe, in the 70s, and then Iran, with their Iranian Revolution, took it over. So the strait is largely monitored by Iran and Oman, but Iran really kind of has this, and things have not been completely peaceful in terms of that, but it's been navigated, fairly without much incident until now. And Iran thought that they had America and they had the world, in a vulnerable position by them controlling the strait. And so Trump making this move, well, then we're going to temporarily control it so we can make sure, ships can go through. I think, a pretty good choice, especially since there's alleged booby traps and mines and things like that that can hurt other countries' ships. Europe's attitude towards this and our allies, it is a little confusing. On one end, I know they're saying, well, we didn't start this fight. Everything was fine until Trump jumped in, and now we have to jump in because Trump starts this fight. No, he could deal with his own fight. On the other end, Iran has been a thorn. This regime has been a thorn in our side. They have been hurting their own civilians. They've been hurting Americans. They've been hurting Europeans. And nobody has had the guts to do anything about it. And so, seeing the Ayatollah removed and eliminated, and you see the people dancing in the streets and so grateful. I mean, this was something that needed to be done. It's just whoever is still taking over, and we don't think it's the son because we think the son's in a coma or dead. Whoever is taking over is still, holding some sort of control. And so, I'm no foreign policy expert or as it pertains to oil transport and all that, but what I can tell just from my own view and perspective of this is it's not going to be easy. We're going to be in it for probably a rough few months at least. This was not going to be over in a couple weeks, but this was something that needed to be done. And if anybody was going to do it, it was probably going to be Trump. And if there is a way to ensure that, Iran just showed their cards. All right. If they would they really want nuclear enrichment and they want to be able to have nuclear weapons, which is very apparent. They also showed that they are funding Hezbollah and other Hamas, other terrorist organizations, in that they wanted Israel to stop bombing Hezbollah sites and buildings in Lebanon. Like, whoa, wait, why do you care what's going on in Lebanon? Why does that have to be a part of this? This is Iran and America. Why is Lebanon a part of it? Well, it's not Lebanon. It's just there's the Hezbollah cells that are there. That is so. They've showed their cards. So we know that they want nuclear capabilities because they want to use them. We know they've been funding terrorism. Now we're actually hearing that there might be a standstill with the Ukraine-Russia war because if Iran's not providing drones and helping Russia as much, Russia's starting to now, have issues. And then they showed their cards. Well, we're going to then mess with the Strait of Hormuz. Well, what else do you got? Because we can match that very easily. And so they didn't play this smart. They didn't play it smart at all. And then you threaten to kill. See, these sorts of individuals, they think death and threatening and beating people into submission is the way to do things. And the people are rejecting it, and they're giving their lives. The young men and women are giving their lives up to fight this Iranian regime that is controlling them. And this is why I want to see Palestine free from Hamas. Everybody says free Palestine from Israel. Israelis aren't doing to them what Hamas is doing. Hamas is doing that, is subjecting them where they can't be free. They can't go to school. They can't get access to the hospitals and all that. And the Muslim communities who live in Israel, get to have get to share the same freedoms that the Israelis do. They are considered Israelis. And so we've Iran has basically given us a lesson, whether anybody wants to, see what's happening and or just complain about Trump, that you can't change. But for everybody else that is learning, like I said, this is going to be, we're getting a great education. We're looking at what America can do. We have underwater drones. We have, so many capabilities. And now we're basically testing our equipment, but we're doing it for a cause that needed to be done decades ago. It's going to be rough. Gas prices are going to be up. Trump promised he's going to help get them down. I don't want to see any innocent cargo ships or oil tankers get hurt because Iran wants to start blowing things up and hurting them. So America taking over and then allowing there to be passage. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. It's going to be really, really interesting. And then where's NATO? Where's the UN? Should the Strait of Hormuz not be run by Iran and controlled by Iran, but controlled by international forces. I would like to really see what the international community does, as opposed to just sitting there, complaining about Trump. And so, I'm just, it's frustrating. It really is, because, and I get it. He causes some of this because some of this, shall we say, criticism because of how he tweets, and then he posted a picture of him, being like Jesus. Yeah, that's going to rub people the wrong way. But if he could kind of calm down on his postings, we could see the logic to what he's doing. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So the Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell, who has been running for governor of California and was leading, is now under a heap of trouble and has had to withdraw from the Democratic race because 4 women described sexual misconduct by him, including a former staffer who said that he raped her. She said that she was heavily intoxicated and that the rape left her bruised and bleeding. Now, Swalwell has denied these allegations, but she said that she was pushing him off of her, saying no. And this happened in 2024 after she had stopped working in his office. She said he didn't stop, and it was the second time he attacked her. So I'm not exactly sure how that happened or where they were. But the first time, I believe, was in 2019. She was working for him at the time. She woke up naked with him in a hotel after a night of heavy drinking. She had no memory of what happened, but could feel physically that they had sexual contact. So maybe she was roofied or drugged. They say 3 other women spoke to CNN, and CNN is reporting this, also alleged various kinds of sexual misconduct by the Democratic congressman. They said Representative Swalwell sent them unsolicited, explicit messages or nude photos. One woman connected online with him over her interest with Democratic politics, said she ended up extremely drunk inside his hotel room after a night out with the congressman. Little memory of what occurred. Earlier in the night at a bar, he kissed her, touched her leg without her consent, she said. And then another woman said they received unsolicited nude messages. This was, I guess, a social media creator. I won't give her name. She said she would initially reach out to the congressman on Twitter to discuss politics. She said, I truly never thought he would respond. I had only 1,000 followers at the time, but he responded. And then apparently they ended up she ended up getting messages from him that involved nude messages. Now, Representative Swalwell says these allegations are false, come on the eve of an election against the front runner for governor. And he has been the front runner. For nearly 20 years, I have served the public. As a prosecutor and congressman, I've always protected women. I will defend myself with the facts and where necessary, bring legal action. My focus in the coming days is to be with my wife and children and defend our decades of service against these lies. Now, on a Twitter or or Instagram or TikTok, he had apologized. He said, I have made mistakes. And in this response, he suggested what was implied in this was that he said the allegations are false. What people are accusing me of false, but I have made mistakes, and he's addressing that with his wife. So it's implying, allegedly, that he may have had extramarital affairs. Were they consensual or not? We used to not allow people who, cheated on their wife and family to hold office because they needed to have ethics and they needed to be of high moral character. Now people are cheating left and right. It's horrible how that is. But if any of these, shall we say, extramarital contacts and interactions were non-consensual and involved drugs, this guy's going to jail if he's found guilty. This is some serious stuff. So an attorney for Swalwell has sent two of the women cease and desist letters. And the letters said that the woman's accounts were false, ordered them to retract their statements. Now, it's very difficult to prove assault if you don't go and get the rape kit done right away. But an investigator can lead up. They can, look at cameras, you trying to get away from the person or this person, if it's hard to do when the time has passed. But if he did send nude photos, unsolicited nude photos, you can look at those DMs, those direct messages, those mailbox receptacles, and you could look at that. And that is sexual misconduct if you're sending somebody naked pictures of yourself. And why would anybody do that? I don't understand why. I mean, is it that you're narcissistic? The psychology of sending nude pictures of I was a very, very high turtleneck, long skirt, pants. I just never felt, I just never wanted to wear a bikini in public. I was just always like that. But I was like that because I didn't have self-confidence in my body. And now that I'm older, I look back and I go, you know what? I should have worn a bikini. It would have been really, really nice to know and see that I did have a decent body, but I never had that. I just never wanted to do that. Even though I did have a decent body, why would I be showing it off? And nowadays, though, people have a lot of more confidence, and good for them. Good for them. But to send nude photos, I don't know why anybody would do that, especially since somebody could. It's got to be in the narcissistic sort of personality range where you think, you have the most amazing body, and even if it does get shared, you're proud of it, or you're naive and you think, well, nobody's going to share it. I'm going to send this picture, as long as nobody sees it, I'm good. See, I don't think that way. I think, how I look is, always think about X, Y, and Z down the line. And here he is, he wants to run for governor, and then anybody running for California governor most of the time wants to look at president. Why would you do that? Now, is it that he thought he could have anybody? That he could have anybody he wanted? And so maybe he felt that, you know what? This is who I am. I'm on TV all the time. I don't even think the guy's good looking. And so there's, and from what we're understanding, there's a lot of individuals who said they've known about this with him. This has not been a secret. Only now this is coming out. Everybody's thinking, well, gosh, why is this coming out now? Because, why? Because he's running for governor. It's got to be fake. Well, from what we understand, this came out before. There were issues before, just nobody did anything about it. Steve Hilton is now, I believe, going to be leading in the polls, and he is a Republican that is now running for California governor. It's going to be really, really fascinating if a Republican can then take control of California. I think it hasn't happened since Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then before that, no, I think Jerry Brown was Democrat. I think before that was then Ronald Reagan. And so if Steve Hilton can end up, taking over California, that would be interesting. Now, of course, if the legislature is still predominantly, the state legislature predominantly Democrat, there's not, as much as he wants to do to get done, but it's going to be really, really telling because people are looking at, if Governor Newsom is going to be our next president, and he is going to be campaigning on, look at what I did for California. Now, we're all looking at California as what's a mess. People are fleeing there. The taxes are high. They're not taking care of their homeless populations, their schools. It's a mess. But he is touting that it's good. So to see that if the voters reject the current party could be very telling. Meanwhile, Reverend Al Sharpton asked Kamala Harris if she was going to be running for president, and she goes, I'm thinking about it. Now, that answer bothered me. I understand nobody wants to say anything because then the vetting process starts early. So you want to say at the last minute if you're doing it, so then you save yourself months of bad press. But the fact that she said, I'm thinking about it, to me means she just lied in front of us. She knows exactly what she wants to do. And I think she wants to run again. Yeah, she's testing the field. A lot of people gave her a lot of money. And she is still the contender. She's beating out Newsom. And so, yeah, if she thinks she has that possibility, I think she is going to run again. That's why she didn't want to run for governor. And she didn't want to run for governor of California. But I don't think that was the best answer. Reverend Al Sharpton was like, I'm not very, what was the word for it? He kind of described himself as not being subtle. But we'll see what happens. But with Swalwell, it's going to be interesting to see now what Congress does as a result of these allegations. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So there was, I think, earlier last week, we saw on the news that the CDC was, quote unquote, by some media outlets trying to bury the COVID vaccine effectiveness studies. And the media just went to town on this. And so I was asked, what's going on here? Why would the CDC not publish something expeditiously on vaccine effectiveness when we've had the vaccine now since the end of 2020? So I think December 2020 is when we started the rollout, and then January 2021, nurses and healthcare professionals got it, and then immunocompromised, and then most of us started to get it over the next few months, and all of a sudden it became mandated. Once they started the mandate, which I warned people against, okay, that's when a lot of the drama started. It's one thing to say, guys, we're really worried about, this epidemic. It's killing people. We have a vaccine. In our preliminary testing, it's showing it's working. It's efficacious. There might be, some waning immunity. We don't know that yet, but it's all right now a guess, because COVID is very, very new. So if you want, here's the vaccine. And we'll try to publish studies and more information as we get it so you can make an informed decision. And that's not really what happened. What ended up happening was, all of a sudden, it was, if you don't get the vaccine, you can't go to college. You can't work in our hospital. They fired nurses who didn't want to get the vaccine, who were the same nurses that were helping individuals through COVID gain some sort of natural immunity because they were still alive. And when nurses were like, can you just check my antibodies so I don't have to get the vaccine yet? Just check my antibodies. They wouldn't let them, and they fired them. There was a pregnant waitress in Brooklyn when the vaccine just came out. And she was in her third trimester, and she was like, can I hold off getting the vaccine? That was, and no, she got fired. So I knew once they started to politicize it, we were going to be in trouble, because I actually believe that the vaccine has benefits. When I got the COVID vaccine, I didn't get COVID that year. So it did something. Did I have side effects from it? Yes. Did I feel miserable? Yes. Have I gotten any more since? No. I probably won't, because I feel that I just don't want any more swelling and arm pain. And I was having left chest pain, left underarm swelling, breast swelling. I couldn't do my mammograms, and it was but I didn't get COVID that year, which was nice, because I really don't like getting COVID. So what's happening here? So the CDC, RFK Jr. had promised that he was going to make sure that we had access to the studies. And he was also going to make sure that this wasn't a study where it's a pharmaceutical company trying to push it. Whenever we did Journal Club, we called it, in medical training, if you came up with an article from, let's say, Merck or Johnson & Johnson, and it was talking about, how wonderful the drug was, the first thing they asked you is, who's the author, who's the sponsor of this? Well, if the sponsor was a pharmaceutical company, they got, you need to find something where there were no possibilities for secondary gain, so to speak. And so, we do have to, the studies, just because something's a study doesn't mean it is 100% on the up and up. There could be manipulation of the data. There could be, and how manipulation happens is, let's say you look at 100 people, okay? And those 100 people, if you do an observational study, which is what this study apparently was, let's say you look at 100 people and it's showing that, let's say, a medicine was effective for only 50 of them. Well, then you're looking at, okay, well, it's only a 50% efficacy rate. It only helped 50 people. But then what if you saw that those 50 people were of this smaller range? So then let's say, we looked at 65 data points or 60 data points. 50 of them did well. Well, now the percentage looks higher. And so sometimes they could change, we call it the N number. They shouldn't be doing this. But this was an outlier. We couldn't include this person. We couldn't include this person. And then sometimes that's how they can kind of work the numbers. These are things that could be very covert in these studies. And you have to be very aware. What I learned in science is, when you come up with a hypothesis, you don't wish for an answer or a result. You are testing the hypothesis with all the scientific naivety in the world. And then if you conducted your scientific process properly, that result may be valid. And you cannot just choose a valid result on your own. I mean, you have to then go with what the study showed. Then you publish the study and you say, this is what we got. Were there limitations to the study? Yeah, maybe we needed a larger sample size. Maybe we needed to, maybe some of the placebo patients weren't necessarily placebo because they can tell that the pill was a dummy pill, or who knows? So it just because something's a study doesn't necessarily mean it's at 100% of what we could use. On the other end, if there is a study, and this is what the media is thinking happened, is that there's a study saying that the vaccine was very effective, and let's say somebody politically doesn't want to publish that because it thinks it'll affect the political narrative. Okay, well, then that's unethical. You can't do that. So what exactly is going on? So according to medical professionals' reference, there is a report that the head of the CDC wants to still review. Dr. Bhattacharya, who heads the CDC, expressed concerns about the observational method used in the study to calculate vaccine effectiveness. And the scientific team is working to address these concerns. That's what Andrew Nixon said, a spokesperson for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And that the review was routine. I didn't find that shocking at all. Dr. Bhattacharya wants to make sure that the paper uses the most appropriate methodology for such a study. Remember, his license is on the line too, and his name is on the line. As I said before, like with Dr. Fauci, if at all you disagree with your current administration, you don't do anything you don't endorse something, you don't not endorse something without going through the proper process. And if anybody felt like they couldn't do what they needed to do medically because our medical ethics have to always come first, then you leave that administration. So if Dr. Bhattacharya said, look, I want to look at this further and ensure that the study was done properly, because if we publish a study that was half-assed, that's on us. That's absolutely within his purview. I mean, we've had the vaccines out now for, over 5 years. I think, waiting another month or two to make sure the data is accurate is fine. So an observational study is where you take a look at a bunch of people. Okay, did you get the shot? Yeah, I got the shot. Did you get COVID? No. Okay, did you get the shot? No, I didn't get the shot. Did you get COVID? Yes. Okay, that's in very simplistic terms an observational study. Well, in terms of accuracy, what Dr. Bhattacharya would rather do is, if I could find what he wants to do, randomized clinical trials, where you give the participants the vaccine and you give others a placebo, and then you see if they end up getting COVID or not. So a randomized clinical trial is how we test a lot of our medications. We don't do a lot of observational studies in that realm. Before you get a medication, it has to be a randomized clinical trial. So for him to want to look at the vaccine effectiveness that way is not that shocking. Now, what were some of the preliminary results? Well, according to NPR, Medical Professionals Reference, they said that the study that was published in the New York Times indicated that the vaccine reduced emergency room visits by 50%, reduced hospitalizations by 55%. Now, I believe that. I think that could be some very fabulous data, because I saw how the COVID vaccine, people who got the COVID vaccine were able to get through COVID, get treatment online or get Paxlovid or whatever, and still do well. So I believe that. But what I find fascinating is only 50%. I would have thought that vaccine prevented a lot of people from going to the hospital. So I actually find that those numbers lower than I would have expected. That's just me. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.